Be me. 29. Adjunct professor in gender studies at a mid-tier university. PhD focused on deconstructing linguistic oppression in academic spaces. Published 3 papers on how language reinforces patriarchal structures. Run a mandatory first-year seminar called Critical Perspectives on Gender and Communication. Students call it woke boot camp behind my back. Don't care. They need to unlearn their biases. Spent years perfecting my syllabus. Every reading is about dismantling harmful narratives. Bell Hooks, Judith Butler, Sarah Ahmed, the whole canon. Assignments designed to challenge their comfortable worldviews. The first day of class, I hand out a style guide. 12 pages of diversity-approved language standards. No gendered pronouns unless explicitly requested. No masculine-coded words like strong or assertive without context. No ableist terms like crazy or insane. No violent metaphors like killing it or crushing it. Students look confused. One kid raises his hand, asks if this is satire. I say, this is how we create inclusive academic spaces. He doesn't ask again. The first essay assignment drops week 3. Prompt: analyze a personal experience through the lens of systemic oppression. Expect deep reflections on racism, sexism, homophobia. Get 24 submissions. Start grading. First essay from a guy named Chris. Writes about growing up poor in rural Ohio. Father worked 2 jobs, mother cleaned houses. Describes feeling invisible in college surrounded by wealth. Well written, emotional, specific details. But he uses strong to describe his dad 4 times. Uses crazy twice to describe financial stress. Writes, my family was crippled by debt. Circle every violation in red. Right at the bottom, your experience is valid, but your language reinforces ableist and patriarchal norms. Rewrite using approved terminology. C. Feel good about teaching him to be more conscious. He'll thank me later. Next essay, from a girl named Sophie. Writes about being the only woman in her engineering classes. Talks about professors ignoring her questions. Group projects where guys take credit for her ideas. Powerful stuff. Exactly what I wanted. But she writes, I felt like I was going insane. Uses manpower instead of workforce. Describes wanting to kill her next presentation. Same treatment. Circle violations. Explain why each term is problematic. B+ with notes. Excellent analysis, but language matters. Rewrite the marked sections. She'll understand it's for her own good. Week 5. Office hours. Chris shows up, essay in hand. Sits down, looks tired, says, I don't understand what you want me to change. I explain patiently. Strong is masculine coded, implies women are weak by default. Crazy stigmatizes mental illness. Crippled is ableist, offensive to disabled communities. He stares at me. But my dad was strong. That's just true. And we were crazy stressed. That's how people talk. I sigh. Pull out the style guide. This isn't about how people talk. It's about how we should talk. Language shapes reality. If we use oppressive language, we reinforce oppressive systems. He's quiet for a long time. Finally says, so, I have to lie about my life to get a good grade? I feel my jaw tighten. It's not lying. It's being responsible with your words. He leaves without rewriting it. Next class. I dedicate 20 minutes to explaining why the rewrites matter. Words have power. They exclude people. They cause harm. When you say crazy, you're trivializing mental illness. When you say strong, you're reinforcing gender binaries. Most students nod along. Some look skeptical, but stay quiet. One girl, Emma, raises her hand. What if the person we're writing about actually used those words? Like, what if my grandma calls herself crazy? Do I have to change that too? I pause, feel the class watching. Yes, because even if she uses it, we're perpetuating harm by repeating it. Our job is to model better language. Emma looks like she wants to say more, but doesn't. Class ends in uncomfortable silence. Rewrite deadline passes. 18 students turn in revisions. 6 don't. Chris is one of them. Sophie rewrites hers, but I can tell she's annoyed. Replaces insane with overwhelmed. Replaces kill with excel at. Replaces manpower with workforce. Technically correct, but the emotion is gone. The essay feels flat now, sanitized. Still give her an A. She earned it by following the rules. Grade the holdouts. Chris gets a D. He wrote a note on the back. I can't rewrite my father's life in language that erases who he was. Feel a flash of anger. This isn't about his father. It's about being a responsible communicator. He's choosing his comfort over other people's safety. Selfish. Typical. Move on to the next essay. Week 7. Department meeting. Dean mentions student complaints. Some students feel the language requirements are too restrictive, affecting their ability to express personal experiences authentically. I speak up immediately. Authentic expression built on oppressive language isn't authentic. It's just unexamined privilege. These students need to be challenged. A few colleagues nod. 1. Professor Tom, an older guy in political science, looks uncomfortable. Says, I think we need to be careful about policing personal narratives, especially when students are writing about trauma or hardship. I cut him off. Trauma doesn't excuse harmful language. If anything, it's more important to model inclusive terminology in vulnerable moments. He doesn't push back. Meeting moves on. But complaints keep coming. Student writes about her brother's suicide, uses the phrase, he killed himself, and mental breakdown. I mark it. Consider died by suicide and mental health crisis instead. She comes to office hours crying. Those were his words, from his note. I can't change them. I try to be gentle. I understand this is painful, but we have to think about the broader impact. Someone reading this might be triggered by that language. She just stares at me, tears streaming. He's dead. Who cares about the words? I don't know what to say to that. She leaves. Doesn't turn in a rewrite. Another student, Jake, writes about his mum's cancer. Describes her as a fighter who battled the disease. I mark it up. Fighter and battle are violent metaphors that frame illness as war. Consider navigated or experienced instead. He emails me. My mom called herself a fighter. It gave her strength. Why would I erase that? I reply, language that glorifies violence, even metaphorically, contributes to a culture of aggression. Please revise. He doesn't respond. Takes the C. Midterm exam. Essay question. How can we use language to dismantle oppressive systems in our daily lives? Expect thoughtful responses about conscious word choice. Get a mix. Some students write exactly what I want to hear. Regurgitate my lectures about microaggressions and linguistic violence. Others write things like, language is just words. It's the actions that matter. Those get C's and D's. They're missing the entire point. One student, David, writes something that stops me. Language matters, but so does being able to tell your own story in your own words. My grandfather was a coal miner. He called the work brutal. He called himself tough. Those words meant something to him. If I write about him in approved language, I'm not honoring him. I'm erasing him. Maybe the real oppression is being told you can't speak your own truth. I stare at it for a long time. Want to give him an F. But something about it nags at me. Give him a C+ with a note. Interesting perspective, but fails to engage with the systemic harm of unchecked language. I don't really believe my own note. Push the feeling down. Week 10. Sophie comes to office hours again. She's been quiet in class lately. Sits down. Looks exhausted. I need to talk about something. I rewrote my essay like you asked, and I submitted it to a scholarship committee. They rejected it, said it felt impersonal and detached. I went back and read my original version, the one with all the violations. It was better. It was real. I'm not saying your rules are wrong, but I lost something when I changed it. I try to explain. Sometimes we have to sacrifice individual expression for collective good. She just looks at me. Who decided what the collective good is? I don't have a clean answer. She leaves. That night, scrolling through student avals from last semester, most are positive, really opened my eyes, made me think differently. But there are others. Felt like I couldn't write about my own life without being corrected. Spent more time checking the style guide than actually writing. My essay about my dad's death got marked up for language. She didn't even comment on the content. That last one hits weird. Tell myself they just don't understand yet. They will eventually. Week 12. Chris emails me. Subject line, dropping the class. I came to college to learn how to think, not to be told what words I'm allowed to use. My dad died last year. I wanted to write about him, about what he meant to me. But every time I tried, I got told I was using harmful language. He wasn't perfect, but he was strong. He did work that was brutal, and our situation was crazy. Those aren't bad words. They're true words. I can't rewrite him to make him fit your politics. I'm done. Feel anger first. Another student who can't handle being challenged. But then I go back and reread his original essay. Really read it this time. He wrote about his father's hands, cracked and scarred from factory work, about how his dad never complained, just kept showing up, about being 12 years old and watching his dad cry exactly once when the plant closed, about how his dad called himself just a working man, but Chris thought he was the strongest person alive. The word strong appears 4 times. I circled it every time, wrote masculine coded in the margin. Never wrote anything about the love in the essay. Never acknowledged what he was actually trying to say. Sit there for an hour just staring at the screen. Think about every essay I've graded this semester. The girl who wrote about her brother's suicide. The guy who wrote about his mom's cancer. Sophie's essay about being dismissed in engineering classes. All of them got marked up for language. How many of them did I actually engage with on content? How much did I care about what they were saying versus how they were saying it? Feel something uncomfortable rising in my chest. Next class. I try to explain myself better. I know the rewrites feel restrictive, but we're building a better world. Language is the first step toward real change. Emma raises her hand. But what if the language we're replacing actually meant something to the people who used it? Like, my grandma is 80, she's Mexican, she calls herself crazy all the time. It's not ableist when she says it, it's just her. If I write about her and change her words, I'm not respecting her, I'm correcting her. I start to respond, but another student jumps in. Yeah, my uncle is disabled. He calls himself crippled. He says it's his word. He gets to use it. Who am I to tell him he's wrong? Feel the class shifting. They're not hostile, just genuinely confused. I try to regain control. Individual choices don't negate systemic harm. We're not policing people, we're creating standards. But even as I say it, it sounds hollow. That weekend, I attend a conference on inclusive pedagogy, panel discussion on language and liberation in the classroom. Professor from Berkeley talks about decolonizing syllabi. Professor from NYU talks about trauma-informed grading. I'm nodding along, taking notes. Then a professor from a community college in Texas speaks. Older black woman, been teaching for 30 years. She says something that stops the room. I grew up poor in Houston. My mama cleaned houses. My daddy drove trucks. They used words y'all would call problematic. But those words were theirs. They meant something. When I teach my students, a lot of them come from places like I did. If I tell them their language is wrong, I'm telling them their lives are wrong. I'm not saying we don't teach critical thinking, but we gotta be careful. Sometimes what we call liberation looks a lot like silencing. Room goes quiet. I feel my face get hot. Want to argue, but can't find the words. Fly home. Can't stop thinking about it. Reread Chris's email. Reread his original essay. Pull up Sophie's first draft. Pull up the one about the brother's suicide. Read them all again, this time without the red pen. They're good. They're raw and real and painful and human, and I shredded them for using the wrong words. Never once asked what they were trying to say, just focused on how they were saying it. Feel sick. Monday, office hours. Tom, the political science professor, stops by, asks how the semester is going. I'm honest for the first time. I think I might have messed up. He sits down, listens. I tell him about the essays, the complaints, the conference. I thought I was helping them, teaching them to be more conscious, but I think I was just making them afraid to write. He's quiet for a bit, then says, my dad was a mechanic. He was also an alcoholic. When I wrote about him in grad school, my professor told me I was using stigmatizing language. I tried to rewrite it in clinical terms, but it didn't feel like him anymore. I ended up not writing about him at all. 30 years later, I still regret it. He looks at me. I'm not saying language doesn't matter, but people matter more. And sometimes the words they use are the only way they know how to tell their truth. Spend the next week rereading every essay from the semester. 142 submissions. At least 80 of them have red marks about language. Maybe 20 have comments about the actual content. I thought I was teaching critical thinking. Really, I was just teaching fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, using the wrong word, offending the wrong person. How many stories did I silence in the name of inclusion? Draft an email to the class. Delete it. Draft another. Delete it. Finally, just write. I've been reflecting on the rewrite policy this semester. I want to acknowledge that I may have been too rigid. Language matters, but so does your ability to tell your own story authentically. For the final essay, write in whatever language feels true to you. I'll grade on content, structure, and depth of analysis. not on whether you followed the style guide. Hover over, send for 10 minutes. Finally hit it. Responses come in immediately. Sophie: thank you. This means a lot. Emma: can I resubmit my earlier essay in my own words? Jake: does this mean I can call my mum a fighter again? I reply, yes, to all of them. Chris doesn't respond. He already dropped. Final essays come in. They're different. Rougher, messier, more alive. A girl writes about her dad's alcoholism, uses the word drunk without apology. A guy writes about his depression, calls it darkness and drowning. Sophie rewrites her engineering essay, puts back all the violations. It's furious and powerful and real. I cry reading it. Give her an A with a note. This is what I should have said the first time. Your voice matters. Grade all the finals without the style guide. Focus on what they're saying, not how they're saying it. Some of the language still makes me uncomfortable. Masculine-coded words, ableist terms, violent metaphors. But I'm starting to understand that discomfort isn't harm, and silence isn't safety. The last day of class, I do something I've never done. I apologize. I came into this semester believing I was teaching you to be more inclusive. I think instead I was teaching you to be more afraid. Afraid of saying the wrong thing, using the wrong word, being yourselves. That's not liberation. That's just control with better branding. I still believe language matters, but I also believe your stories matter more. I'm sorry for making you choose between the two. Some students nod. Some look surprised. One girl in the back wipes her eyes. Semester ends. Student evals come back. They're mixed. She changed halfway through. It was confusing, but I respect it. Finally felt like I could write about my life without being corrected. I learned a lot, but I wish she'd figured this out sooner. One stands out. I almost dropped this class because I felt like I couldn't be myself. I'm glad I stayed, but I'm sad for the students who didn't. Think about Chris. Wonder if he ever wrote about his dad somewhere else. Hope he did. Run into Tom in the faculty lounge. He asks how it went. Better, I think. But I still feel like I did damage. He nods. Teaching is humbling like that. We think we're helping, then we realize we're just human. The good ones adjust. I appreciate that. Still feel guilty. Spend winter break revising my syllabus. Keep some of the critical theory, the discussions about power and language, but remove the mandatory style guide. Add a note instead. Language shapes reality, but so does silencing people. In this class, we'll examine how words can harm, but we'll also respect your right to tell your own story. Critical thinking means questioning everything, including the rules we create. Feels better. Not perfect, but better. Get an email in January. It's from Chris. I saw you change the syllabus. A friend showed me. I'm not coming back to your class. But I wanted to say this. I did end up writing about my dad in a different class. Used all the words you told me not to use. Got an A, and the professor said it was the most honest thing he'd read all year. I don't think you're a bad person. I just think you forgot that real people have real lives. And sometimes the messy words are the only true ones. Good luck with your new syllabus. Read it 5 times. Don't know if I should reply. Finally, just write, "Thank you for teaching me something I should have already known." He doesn't respond. That's okay. New semester starts. New batch of students. First day, I hand out the syllabus. No style guide this time. One student raises her hand. So we can write however we want. I pause. Think about how to answer. You can write in whatever language feels true to your experience. I'll push back if I think you're being careless or harmful. But I won't punish you for being human. She looks relieved. So do I. Still believe language matters. Still think we should be thoughtful about the words we use. But I also know now that policing people's stories isn't activism. It's just another way of telling them they're not good enough. Maybe the real work isn't changing their words. Maybe it's listening to what they're actually trying to say. Think about all the essays I marked up and read. All the students I made rewrite their lives. I wonder how many of them stopped writing altogether. Wonder how many stories I'll never hear because I made them afraid. That's the part that keeps me up at night. Colleague asks if I'm still teaching inclusive language. I say yes, but differently now. I teach them to think critically about language, but I don't teach them to be afraid of their own voices. She looks skeptical. Isn't that just letting them off the hook? I think about Chris, about Sophie, about all of them. No, I think it's actually holding myself accountable. She doesn't get it. Maybe she will someday. End of the year. Department review. Dean mentions my course evals improved. Students say they feel heard now. Whatever you changed, keep doing it. I nod. Don't mention that what I changed was admitting I was wrong. Some lessons you have to learn the hard way. Still post about social justice online. Still believe in fighting oppression. But I'm more careful now. Less certain. Less quick to correct people. Someone tweets about their crazy family. I scroll past instead of quote tweeting. Someone writes about a strong woman. I let it be. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's just exhaustion. Probably both. Think about what that professor said at the conference. Sometimes what we call liberation looks a lot like silencing. I used to think I was liberating my students. Really, I was just teaching them to censor themselves, to fear their own words, to believe their experiences were wrong unless filtered through my politics. That's not education. That's just control. I was wrong, and I cost students their voices. Some of them got them back. Some of them didn't. That's on me.